Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the warm, dusty heart of ancient Mali, where traders mastered the art of swapping gold for salt without saying a single word. Picture yourself under a blistering Sahel sun, surrounded by endless dunes. The air thick with the scent of camel sweat and sun-baked earth. You're standing where merchants once conducted silent barter, a trade so quiet you'd hear a pin drop. Pins existed here. Honestly, you'd probably pass out from the heat before figuring out their system. It's not exactly a skill for the impatient, so, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your time zone and where you're chilling tonight. I love picturing you all scattered across the globe, cozy under blankets or sprawled on couches. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're not just anywhere, you're in the Mali Empire. Around the 13th century, when this place was richer than most modern billionaires' dreams, the air shimmers with heat as you squint at a flat, sandy clearing, the kind of nowhere that somehow feels important. You notice a pile of gold nuggets, glittering like they're showing off, left unattended in the ground. No guards, no fences. Just a few sticks poked into the dirt nearby. Your modern brain's freaking out who leaves gold just lying around. But this is silent barter, Mali's genius trade trick. You're dying to touch it, but you don't. Something about the stillness warns you to keep your hands to yourself. Now, let's set the scene properly. The Mali Empire was a powerhouse, stretching across West Africa, its wealth built on gold so pure, it made European kings jealous. You've heard of Mansa Musa, right? The guy so rich he crashed Egypt's economy by tipping too much gold on his pilgrimage to Mecca. That's the Mali you're in, where gold flowed like water, but saltiest, boring old salt was just as precious. Why? Because out here, salt wasn't just for seasoning your stew. It kept you alive in this oven of a climate. You'd sweat buckets, lose electrolytes, and without salt, you'd be a dehydrated mess. Traders from the north brought salt slabs, while Malians offered gold, and they swapped without ever meeting face to face. Wild, right? Historians still argue over how this trust even worked. Some say it was pure honor. Others think fear of retaliation kept everyone honest. Here's the weird bit. These traders didn't just stay quiet because they were shy. Silent barter was a deliberate vibe, like a sacred ritual. You're watching from behind a scraggly acacia tree, trying not to sneeze from the dust. A group of traders from the Sahara, wrapped in indigo turbans, unload salt blocks from their camels. They arrange them in neat rows, then get this, they back off a mile or two and bang a drum. That's the signal. We're done. Your turn. You're thinking, what if someone just steals it? But nobody does. It's like an unspoken code, stronger than any contract you'd sign today. You're half expecting someone to mess it up. Like that one guy who replies all on a work email. But nope, it's smoothed out as you crouch there. The sun's dipping low, painting the sand orange. You hear a faint jingle. Malian traders approaching. With gold they inspect the salt, nod to each other, and leave piles of gold dust next to the salt. Then they retreat and hit their own drum, like texting your move in the world's slowest group chat. The Saharan traders return, check the gold, and if it's enough, they take it and leave. If not, they adjust the salt and walk away again. You're exhausted just watching this back and forth, but it's hypnotic, like a chess game with zero trash talk. This system wasn't just practical, it was cultural. You're starting to get why they didn't chit-chat. Different languages, sure, but also different vibes. The Wangara, Mali's gold traders, and the Berber salt merchants didn't need to bond over coffee to make it work. Silence was their neutral ground, like muting a Zoom call to avoid awkward small talk. You're imagining trying this at a modern flea market, leaving your cash on the table and walking away. Good luck with that. You'd be out your money and your dignity in 10 seconds flat, before you drift off. Picture the clearing again. The gold's gone, the salt's gone, and the only trace of this trade is a few footprints in the sand. You're wondering how long this system lasted, who started it, and why it feels so oddly peaceful. The stars are popping out now, sharp against the inky sky, and you're sinking into the rhythm of this ancient dance. Let's follow these traders a bit longer, see where their paths take us next. You're still in ancient Mali, the air now cooler as dawn creeps over the dunes. You've left that quiet clearing behind, your sandals crunching on gravel as you head toward Timbuktu, the beating heart of the Mali Empire's trade. The horizon shimmers with promise, and you're picking up the faint hum of a city waking up camel grunts. Distant laughter, the clink of metal. Timbuktu's markets are legendary, even in your time, but seeing them now, sprawling under a pink sky, feels like stumbling into a fantasy novel. You're half expecting a dragon to swoop in, but instead, you get a whiff of roasted millet and something spicy you can't quite place. You're starving, but good luck bartering for a snack without breaking the silence rule. You weave through the crowd, dodging traders, balancing baskets of cola nuts, and kids chasing a stray goat. The market's a maze of colors: indigo cloth, gleaming brass, and stacks of salt slabs that look like modern art. You're drawn to a corner where silent barter hums along. Not in some dusty nowhere, but right here in the city's pulse. You spot a trader, face half hidden by a turban, arranging gold nuggets in a precise grid on a woven mat. He steps back, folds his arms, and waits, like he's playing 4D chess with an invisible opponent. You're itching to ask what's up, but you don't. Silence is the game here, and you're just a spectator. Let's talk about why Timbuktu was the place for this quiet trade. By the 13th century, it wasn't just a market town. It was a global hotspot, pulling in scholars, traders, and dreamers from across Africa and beyond. You've heard of its libraries, right? Sankar University was cranking out manuscripts when Oxford was still figuring out parchment. But the real flex was Timbuktu's role as a trade nexus. Gold from Mali's mines met salt from Saharan mines, and silent barter kept things smooth. Why silence in a bustling city? Well, it wasn't just about language gaps though. Those were real, with Songhai, Arabic, and Berber tongues mixing like a linguistic stew. Silence cut through the noise, literally, letting traders focus on the goods, not the gossip. Historians still debate if this was about efficiency or some deeper cultural respect. Nobody's got a clear answer. Here's the odd bit. These traders used smoke signals to coordinate in the city. You're squinting at a faint puff of white, rising from a nearby stall, curling lazily into the sky. It's not random. It's a message, like an ancient SMS saying, "Check the gold, your turn." You're thinking, why not just yell? But yelling's for amateurs. Smoke kept things discreet, especially when gold was involved. You're picturing trying this at a modern farmer's market, lighting a fire to signal you're ready to swap your kale for sourdough. You'd be arrested before you got a reply. As you linger, you notice the rhythm of the market. A Berber trader unloads salt, steps back, and sends up a smoke puff. A local Wangar merchant approaches, inspects the salt, and leaves gold dust in a tiny leather pouch. They never meet, never nod, just glide past each other like ships in the night. You're mesmerized by the trust. This isn't Amazon with a return policy, it's raw, human faith. You're wondering how nobody cheated, but then you see a griot, one of Mali's storyteller historians, watching from a stool. His presence feels like a quiet warning. Mess up, and your name's mud. Forever. You're not sure if that's true, but you're not testing it. The sun's climbing now, and you're sweating through your imaginary tunic. You duck under a canopy, catching a breeze that smells faintly of incense. You're starting to get why silent barter worked here. Timbuktu was a melting pot, and silence was the universal language. You're imagining a modern equivalent, maybe a silent auction on eBay, but with camels instead of Wi-Fi. It's not the same, and you're chuckling at the thought of explaining this to your friends back home. They'd think you're making it up, like that time you swore you saw a UFO. Before you move on, take one last look at the market. The gold's gone, replaced by salt slabs, and the trader's already packing up. You hear a drumbeat in the distance, faint but deliberate, signaling another trade's done. You're curious about the goods themselves. Gold's flashy, but salt, that's the real MVP here. You're ready to follow the trail of these traders, see where their goods come from, and why salt was worth its weight in, well, gold. The city's still buzzing, but you're slipping away, your steps lighter, your mind drifting into the rhythm of this ancient dance. You're leaving Timbuktu's buzzing market behind, the hum of the city fading as you trek across the sun-scorched Sahel. Your sandals sink into the sand, each step kicking up a tiny cloud of dust that clings to your skin. The horizon stretches endlessly, and you're following the faint trail of camel tracks toward a salt mine, where the real magic of silent Barter begins. The air is so dry it feels like it's stealing your breath, and you're wishing for a cold soda fat chance. Out here, you're starting to see why salt was a big deal. You'd trade your phone for a pinch right now. You reach a salt mine, a sprawling cracked plain that looks like a giant dropped a puzzle and walked away. Slabs of salt gleam under the sun, cut into blocks so neat they could be modern tiles. You're watching workers chip away at the ground, their movements slow and deliberate, like they're carving a masterpiece. This is Tau Deni, or a place like it, where salt was mined centuries ago. It's not just any salt, it's life itself out here. You're learning that in the Mali Empire, salt wasn't just seasoning, it was medicine, currency, survival. A slab could buy you a camel, or a month's worth of food. You're thinking of your kitchen salt shaker, sitting lonely next to the pepper, and laughing nobody's starting wars over that. Here's a famous moment. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage in 1324. You've heard the story, guy. Takes 60,000 people. Camels loaded with gold, and sprinkles wealth across the Sahara like it's confetti. But what's less known? His caravan carried salt, too, to keep his entourage alive in the desert. You're picturing his crew, sweating buckets, chugging salt water like it's Gatorade. That's the Mali Empire's flex. Gold made them rich, but salt kept them standing. Historians still argue over how much salt fueled Mali's economists. Some say it was half the trade value. Others think more. Either way, it's why silent barter mattered. Gold and salt needed each other, like peanut butter and jelly, but with higher stakes. Now, here's the weird bit. Some traders left tiny clay figurines next to their salt piles during silent barter. You're crouching by a stack of salt slabs, noticing a small, crudely shaped camel, carved from clay, half buried in the sand. It's not just decoration, it's a marker, like a post-it note saying, "This is my pile, don't touch." You're chuckling, imagining leaving a toy car next to your groceries to claim them at the store. But it worked. These figurines, sometimes animals or abstract shapes, told traders whose goods were whose without a word. You're wondering if they ever mixed them up, like grabbing the wrong coffee order at Starbucks. Probably not. These folks were pros. Acts. You linger. You see a caravan approaching, camels swaying under heavy salt loads. The traders don't speak, just arrange their slabs in a clearing, then retreat, kicking up sand. You hear a faint whistle, not a drum this time, but a low, eerie sound carried by the wind. It's their signal, and you're getting the hang of this silent dance. The gold traders arrive next, their pouches glinting in the sunlight. They inspect the salt, nod, and leave their gold, then vanish into the dunes. You're struck by the rhythm, like a slow-motion tennis match with no cheering. It's oddly soothing. Watching this wordless trust play out, you're starting to feel the weight of the heat, your eyelids drooping as you lean against a salt block. It's rough under your fingers, warm from the sun, and you're imagining licking it like a kid with a lollipop. Gross but tempting. You're joking to yourself about starting a salt-based skincare line. It'd probably sell out in Mali. The traders are long gone now, their tracks fading in the wind. You're curious about the people behind this system, the ones who made silence work like a well-oiled machine. Who were they, and how did they pull this off without a single handshake? The desert's quiet now, just the soft rustle of sand, and you're ready to follow the trail deeper, to meet the faces behind this silent trade. You're trudging through the Sahel now, the sun a relentless weight on your shoulders. As you follow a faint trail toward a Wangara village, the sand's softer here, dotted with tufts of dry grass, and you're catching whiffs of woods and roasted yams from somewhere nearby. Your throat's parched, and you're daydreaming about a cold smoothie mango, maybe, like the ones these traders might have savored after a long day. You're headed to meet the Wangara, the gold traders, who turned silent barter into an art form. They're not just any merchants. They're the backbone of Mali's wealth, and you're about to see how they made silence louder than words. You arrive at a cluster of mud brick houses, their walls baked golden by the sun. A few kids chase a leather ball, giggling while elders sit in the shade, their eyes tracking you like you're the weirdest tourist ever. You're drawn to a small courtyard where a Wangara trader, draped in a flowing robe, sorts gold dust into tiny leather pouches. His hands move with a jeweler's precision, and you're mesmerized by the glint of gold catching the light. This is the Mali Empire at its peak, around the 14th century, when the Wangara were the unsung heroes of trade. You've heard of the Silk Road, right? That's child's play compared to the Sahara's gold salt routes, where the Wangara called the shots without raising their voices. Here's a famous moment: the Wangara's role in Mansa Musa's 1324 pilgrimage. His caravan didn't just carry gold, it was Wangara traders who supplied it, quietly ensuring Mali's king could flaunt his wealth across the known world. But here's the strange part: they never bragged. You're watching this trader, his face calm as he ties a pouch shut, and you're thinking, buddy, you're sitting on a fortune, say something. But he doesn't. That's their code. Silence isn't just strategy, it's identity. Historians still debate why the Wangara stuck to this. Some say it was about secrecy, protecting their gold sources. Others think it was pure cultural swagger, like refusing to overshare on social media. Now, the weird bit: they used knotted cords as a kind of silent ledger. You're squinting at a string hanging from the trader's belt, each knot tied with care, like a friendship bracelet with a PhD. It's not just a cord, it's a record of trades, weights, and debts, all without a scrap of paper. You're imagining trying this with your grocery list, tying knots for milk, eggs, and cereal. You'd end up with a tangle and no dinner. But for the Wangara, these cords were foolproof, a secret code only they could read. You're happy to ask for a tutorial, but you keep quiet, respecting the vibe. As you linger, you notice the courtyard's rhythm. Another trader arrives, sets down a basket of gold nuggets, and ties a new knot on his cord. He steps back, signals with a quick whistle, sharp but soft, like a bird call, and retreats. A salt trader appears later, inspects the gold, and leaves his slabs. No words, no drama, just a nod and a glance. You're struck by the trust here, like leaving your laptop at a coffee shop and expecting it back. You're joking to yourself about trying this with your coworkers. Imagine swapping reports without a single email. Good luck getting that passed. The sun's dipping now, casting long shadows across the courtyard. You're feeling the day's heat in your bones. Your eyelids heavy as you lean against a mud wall, its texture rough but oddly comforting. You're chuckling at the thought of the Wangara, inventing a silent barter, apps swipe right for salt, left for gold. The kids are still playing, their laughter a soft hum, and you're curious about where these traders go next. The Niger River's not far, and you're wondering how it ties into this quiet dance. The village is settling down, the air cooler, and you're ready to follow the Wangara's trail, letting their silent world pull you deeper into its rhythm. You're leaving the Wangara village behind, the dust of their courtyard still clinging to your sandals as you head toward the Niger River. The air's cooler now, with a faint dampness that smells of reeds and mud, a relief after the relentless dryness. You hear the river before you see it, a soft, rhythmic lapping, like nature's own lullaby. Your legs ache, and you're fantasizing about kicking back with an iced tea. But out here, you're lucky to get a sip of warm water from a goatskin. The Niger's banks come into view, a wide, lazy ribbon of water glinting under the late afternoon sun, and you're struck by how this river was the Mali Empire's lifeline. Carrying more than just water, carried silent Barter itself. You settle on a grassy patch, watching canoes glide past, their paddles slicing the surface with barely a sound. These waters were the highway of the 14th century, linking Timbuktu to gold fields in the south and salt mines in the north. You're picturing the river like an ancient Amazon prime, delivering goods without the cardboard boxes. Canoes loaded with salt slabs or gold pouches bob along, their pilots keeping silent, just like the traders on land. You're tempted to wave, but you don't. They're in the zone, and you're not about to mess up their flow. Let's anchor this with a famous moment: the Mali Empire's trade boom under Mansa Musa's reign. By the 1300s, the Niger was a bustling trade route, moving goods that made Mali richer than most of Europe. You've heard of Moose's gold, but the river's roll. That's the unsung hero. It carried Wangara gold north and Saharan salt south, with silent Barter keeping things smooth at every stop. Historians still argue over how much the river shaped this system. Some say it was the backbone, others think overland routes mattered more. Either way, you're watching canoes dock at a small riverside clearing, and it's clear this water was the pulse of Mali's wealth. Here's the strange bit. Traders marked their canoes with colored clay streaks, like ancient QR codes. You're squinting at a canoe painted with red and white swirls, docked by the bank. It's not just art, it's a signal, telling other traders whose goods are whose without a word. You're chuckling, imagining tagging your car with spray paint to claim a parking spot. But it worked here, keeping silent Barter organized on a river packed with boats. You're wondering if they ever got their colors mixed up, like grabbing the wrong luggage at an airport. Probably not. These folks headed down to a science dot as you watch. A trader unloads salt slabs onto the bank, arranging them in neat rows. He steps back, tosses a pebble into the water plink and retreats to his canoe. The ripple's his signal, subtler than a drum, but just as clear. You're impressed by the precision, like a barista nailing your coffee order without asking. A Wangata trader arrives, inspects the salt, and leaves gold dust in a clay pot. No handshake, no chit-chat, just a glance, and they're gone. You're thinking of your last group project, where everyone talked over each other and nothing got done. These traders, they'd have finished early and taken a nap. The river's current pulls at your attention, its gentle churn mixing with the hum of cicadas. You're leaning against a smooth river rock, its coolness seeping through your tunic, and you're joking to yourself about starting a silent Barter kayak. Mentally imagine the Yelp reviews. The sun's dipping lower, painting the water gold, and you're feeling that familiar heaviness in your limbs. You're curious about the trust behind this system, how it held up when nobody spoke. Were there rules, or was it just vibes? The canoes are drifting out of sight now, and you're ready to follow the river's flow, to see how this silent dance kept everyone honest. The Niger's whispering its secrets, and you're sinking deeper into its rhythm. Asterisk, you're still by the Niger River, the water's gentle lapping, a steady pulse as twilight settles in. The air's thick with the scent of damp earth and faint wood smoke, and you're sprawled on a flat rock, watching stars prick through the indigo sky. Your body's heavy from the day's trek, and you're half dreaming of a comfy couch, but the river's hum keeps you anchored. You're about to witness a silent Barter up close, not just from the sidelines. And it's got you curious, how do these traders pull this off without a single word? The scene's so calm, you're tempted to nap, but you shake it off. This is too good to miss. You shift to a crouch, peering through tall reeds as a Saharan trader approaches the riverbank. He's unloading salt slabs from a canoe, stacking them with the care of a chef, plating a Michelin star dish. The slabs catch the moonlight, glowing like oversized sugar cubes, and you're wondering how heavy they are, probably heavier than your gym weights. Not that you'd admit it. This is the Mali Empire in action, around the 14th century, where trust was the currency that made silent Barter work. You're watching history unfold, and it's quieter than a library during finals week. Here's a famous moment. The Mali Empire's trade networks were so solid, they outlasted empires. You've heard of Timbuktu's wealth, but the real flex was how traders from different worlds, Wangara Berber, Songhai, kept deals fair without contracts or cops. Silent Barter was their secret sauce, built on trust so deep it feels alien. Today historians still argue over what glued it together. Some say shared faith, others point to mutual profit. Whatever it was, you're seeing it now, and it's smoother than your last online order showing up on time. Now, the weird bit, they used fireflies as night signals. You're blinking at tiny flickers of light dancing over the salt pile, like nature's own Morse code. The trader scatters a handful of dried leaves, attracting more fireflies, and their glow marks his goods. You're chuckling, imagining using fireflies to flag your takeout order at a restaurant. But here, it's genius, subtle, silent, and impossible to fake. You're wondering if they ever caught the wrong bugs, like grabbing glow sticks instead. Nah, these traders knew their stuff. The Saharan trader steps back, his canoe bobbing gently, and sends a low whistle into the night. You're holding your breath, reeds tickling your arms, as a Wangra trader emerges from the shadows. He inspects the salt, his fingers brushing the slabs like he's reading Braille. Satisfied, he sets down a woven basket of gold nuggets, each one glinting faintly under the firefly glow. He retreats, tossing a pebble into the river plinkand. The deal's done. No words, no haggling, just pure trust. You're thinking of your last roommate who forgot to pay rent. And you're in awe these folks would have kicked them out of Mali. You settle back on your rock, the river's cool mist brushing your face. You're joking to yourself about starting a silent barter club, swapping snacks without small talk. The fireflies are still flickering, their light softening the scene, and you're feeling that familiar pull toward sleep. But you're curious about how they kept this trust from breaking. Was there a system, or just good vibes? The Niger's current swirls lazily, and you're picturing the middlemen who made sure nobody cheated. Who were they, and how did they fit into this quiet dance? The night's deepening, the stars brighter, and you're ready to follow the riverbank further, letting the silence carry you along. You're still nestled by the Niger River, the night air cool against your skin as you lean back on your rock, the faint glow of fireflies fading into the darkness. The river's soft churn mixes with the rustle of reeds, and you're feeling that cozy heaviness, like you've just sunk into a warm blanket. The silent barter you just witnessed lingers in your mind, those traders gliding past each other. No words, no drama. You're wondering how they kept it so fair, how nobody sneaked an extra pinch of gold or a dodgy salt slab. Your modern brains, picturing a scam artist trying to game the system, but out here, there's a quiet force keeping things honest. And you're about to meet the middlemen who made it tick. You shift, brushing sand off your tunic, and follow a narrow path along the riverbank. The stars are sharp overhead, guiding you toward a small encampment where a fire crackles, its light dancing on a circle of figures wrapped in robes. These are the middlemen, the unsung referees of silent barter in the Mali Empire, 14th century. They're not traders themselves, but they're the glue holding this wordless trade together. You're creeping closer, careful not to crunch too loudly on the gravel, and you catch their low murmurs, not breaking the silence rule, just sorting out the day's deals. It's like eavesdropping on the world's chillest board meeting. Here's a famous moment. The Mali Empire's trade routes were so tight, they linked West Africa to the Mediterranean by the 1300s. You've heard of Timbuktu's markets, but middlemen were the real MVPs, making sure gold and salt swapped hands without a fight. They weren't just random guys with clipboards, they were often griots or trusted locals who knew every trader's rep, their job. Watch, mediate, and keep the peace, all without stepping into the spotlight. Historians still debate how much power they held. Some say they were just facilitators. Others think they could make or break a trader's career. Either way, you're watching them now, and they're cooler than any bouncer you've ever seen. Now, the weird bit. They signaled deals with a specific drumbeat pattern. You're catching it now, soft rhythmic thump-thump pause, like a heartbeat, mixed with a jazz riff. It's coming from a small drum by the fire, played by a middleman with a steady hand. It's not just music. It's a code, telling traders miles away that a deal's been checked and approved. You're chuckling, imagining using drum beats to confirm your Venmo payments. Your neighbors would hate you. But here, it's perfect. Loud enough to carry, subtle enough to keep the silence vibe. You're wondering if they ever flubbed the rhythm, like hitting send on a typo-filled text. Probably not. These guys were pros. You settle near the encampment, hiding behind a stack of empty baskets, their woven texture rough under your fingers. A middleman inspects a salt slab left from an earlier trade, holding it to the firelight to check for cracks. He nods, then taps the drum thump-thump. Pause end. Another figure emerges to leave gold dust in a clay pot. It's seamless, like a relay race with no baton drop. You're thinking of your last group chat, where everyone argued over pizza toppings, and you're in awe. These middlemen would have settled it in 10 seconds. They don't even look stressed, just sip from a shared gourd. Probably some fermented millet drink you're too scared to try. The fire's warmth reaches you, mixing with the river's cool mist, and you're joking to yourself about becoming a middleman, You'd probably oversleep and miss the drum signal though. The night's settling deeper, the drumbeat fading, and you're curious about what happens when outsiders stumble into this system. Did they get the silent Barter memo, or did they just stand there, yelling and confused? The encampment's quiet. Now, the middlemen dispersing, and you're ready to follow the river's curve, to see how this silent world handled strangers. The stars twinkle, the Niger hums, and you're sinking into the rhythm, letting it carry you forward. Asterisk, you're slipping away from the middlemen's encampment. The Niger River's soft gurgle fading as you trek back toward Timbuktu's outskirts. The night air's crisp now, carrying the faint scent of acacia blooms, and your sandals scuff against the sandy path, kicking up tiny puffs of dust. You're still buzzing from the silent Barter's smooth rhythm, those middlemen keeping everything fair with a drumbeat and a nod. But now you're wondering what happened when outsiders, folks who didn't get the no-talking memo, stumbled into this quiet trade. You're picturing yourself showing up, yelling about a deal like it's a Black Friday sale, and getting blank stares. The thought makes you smirk as you settle under a baobab tree, its gnarled branches framing the starry sky. You're near a trade clearing, not far from Timbuktu's markets, where the 14th century Mali Empire welcomed strangers from across the Sahara and beyond. The ground's littered with camel tracks and stray bits of straw, and you're catching the distant clink of metal from a caravan settling in. A group of outsiders, maybe Arab merchants from the north, their robes dusted with sand, hovers near a pile of salt slabs, looking confused. They're gesturing wildly, their voices carrying in the still air, and you're wincing. They clearly didn't read the room, or rather, the silence. This is where silent Barter got tricky, and you're about to see how Mali's traders handled the noise. Here's a famous moment. Timbuktu was a global hub by the 1300s, drawing merchants from as far as Cairo and Granada. You've heard of its gold, but its real flex was handling cultural mashups without a hitch. Silent Barter was Mali's way of keeping peace among traders who spoke different languages and followed different customs. When outsiders arrived, they either learned the quiet game fast or flopped hard. Historians still argue over how often these clashes happened. Some say outsiders adapted quickly. Others think they caused regular chaos. Either way, you're watching these Arab merchants now, and it's like seeing someone try to haggle at a silent auction with a megaphone. Now, the weird bit, locals used painted pebbles to teach outsiders the rules. You're spotting a small smooth stone by the salt pile, painted with red and black stripes. It's not just decor, it's a signal, like a sticky note saying, "Shut up and follow the vibe." A Malian trader, face half hidden by a turban, places the pebble prominently, then steps back, staring at the outsiders. One merchant gets it, nudging his friend to hush, and they mimic the routine, leaving gold dust and retreating. You're chuckling, imagining getting a painted rock at work to signal "Stop emailing me." But here, it's effective. The chatter dies down and the trade continues. Quiet as a whisper, you lean against the baobab, its bark rough but grounding, and watch the scene unfold. The outsiders are catching on, arranging their goods with exaggerated care, like kids trying not to mess up a class project. A middleman appears, drumming that familiar thump-thump pause, and you're impressed by how fast they're learning. It's not perfect, one guy still mutters under his breath, earning a side-eye, but the deal goes through. You're thinking of your last language barrier moment, maybe fumbling through a menu abroad, and you're in awe. These Malians could have taught a masterclass in patience. The night's deepening, the air cooler, and you're joking to yourself about painting pebbles for your noisy neighbors red for quiet, black for seriously. Stop. The clearing's calm now, the outsiders gone, their tracks blending into the sand. You're curious about what else flowed through these trades, beyond gold and salt. What other goods swapped hands in this silent dance? The stars are brighter, the crickets hum softer, and you're ready to drift back toward the market, to uncover the stranger items that pass through Mali's quiet trade. The baobab's shade feels like a hug, and you're sinking deeper into the rhythm, letting the silence guide you on. You're back near Timbuktu's bustling edge, the night air now thick with the scent of roasted peanuts and faint traces of camel dung. The baobab tree's shade is a distant memory as you wander toward a quieter corner of the market. where the glow of oil lamps flickers on stacks of goods. Your feet ache, sinking into the sandy ground. And you're dreaming of a soft bed, maybe one of those memory foam ones, but out here, you're lucky to find a woven mat. You're still humming from the silent barter you saw, those outsiders, fumbling their way into Mali's quiet code. Now, you're curious about what else changed hands in these wordless trades. Beyond the gold and salt that stole the spotlight, you pause by a stall, its wooden frame sagging under piles of strange goods, cola nuts, dried fish, and bundles of colorful cloth. The trader, a wiry man with a calm gaze, arranges his wares with the precision of a librarian shelving books. This is the Mali Empire. In the 14th century, where silent barter wasn't just about the big-ticket items, you're starting to realize the market was a treasure trove of oddities, each with its own story. You're tempted to pick up a shiny bead or two, but you keep your hands to yourself, silent. Barter's no place for impulse shopping. Here's a famous moment. Timbuktu's markets were a crossroads for the world by the 1300s, pulling in goods from the Sahara, the Mediterranean, and even West African forests. You've heard of Mansa Musa's gold caravans, but the real magic was the varieties, spices, cloth. Even books flowed through these routes. Silent barter kept it all moving, letting traders swap exotic items without a shouting match. Historians still debate how far these goods traveled. Some say cola nuts reached Europe, others think they stayed local. Either way, you're standing in a hub of global trade, and it's quieter than your local coffee shop on a Monday morning down. The weird bit, ostrich eggs were a hot commodity. You're staring at a polished, cream-colored egg the size of a football nestled among the trader's goods. It's not just a breakfast special, it's a container, a status symbol, sometimes even currency. Traders carved them into bowls or used them to store precious oils, and you're chuckling, imagining cracking one open for an omelet and feeding a whole village. You're picturing trying to sell an ostrich egg at a garage sale. Good luck explaining that to your neighbors. But here, it's a prized item, left beside salt slabs in silent barter, marked with a tiny chalk symbol to claim it. You watch as the trader sets down a stack of dyed indigo cloth, its deep blue catching the lamplight. He steps back, tossing a small twig into a clay pot, his signal, subtle as a text notification. A Saharan trader approaches, inspects the cloth and egg, then leaves a pouch of gold dust and a bundle of dried dates. No words, just a nod, and they're gone. You're thinking of your last online swap, maybe trading old books on a forum and how it took 10 emails to seal the deal. These folks, they've got it down to a glance. It's like watching a dance, each step deliberate, no missteps. The market's hum is softer now, the lamps casting long shadows. You're leaning against a wooden post, its grain worn smooth by years of traders' hands, and you're joking to yourself about starting an ostrich egg collection. Your friends would think you've lost it. The air is cooler, the stars sharper, and you're feeling that gentle pull toward sleep. You're curious about how these trades happened at night, under the moon's glow, when the market slept but the barter didn't. What was it like, swapping goods in the dark? The trader's packing up, his lamp flickering out, and you're ready to follow the trail to a nighttime deal. Letting the market's quiet rhythm lull you deeper. Asterisk, you're slipping away from Timbuktu's market, the last glow of oil lamps fading. As you follow a narrow path under a moonlit sky, the air is cool now, tinged with the earthy scent of night-blooming flowers, and your sandals whisper against the sand. You're still buzzing from that ostrich egg, surprise. Imagine bartering with something that could double as a soccer ball. Now, you're headed to a nighttime trade, where silent barter takes on a whole new vibe under the stars. You're picturing a modern midnight swap, like sneaking snacks from the fridge. But out here, it's a sacred ritual, and you're half expecting some mystical glow to light the way. You reach a clearing by the Niger's edge, the river reflecting slivers of moonlight like a shattered mirror. The scene's quiet, save for the soft chirp of crickets and the occasional splash of a fish. A trader, his silhouette sharp against the silver water, arranges salt slabs in a neat circle, their edges catching the moon's glow. This is the Mali Empire in the 14th century, where silent barter didn't stop when the sun went down. You're feeling the night's calm wrap around you, like a cozy blanket. And you're wondering how anyone stayed awake for this without a triple shot espresso. Here's a famous moment. The Mali Empire's trade routes ran like clockwork, even at night, fueling its legendary wealth. You've heard of Mansa Musa's gold-soaked pilgrimage, but nighttime trades were the secret sauce, letting goods flow 24/7. Silent barter thrived in the dark, with traders using the cover of night to avoid bandits or nosy rivals. Historians still argue over how common these moonlit deals were. Some say they were rare. Others think they were half the trade volume. Either way, you're watching one now, and it's like catching a secret society in action, minus the cloaks and passwords. Now, the weird bit. They used glowing embers to mark their goods. You're squinting at a small clay bowl by the salt pile, filled with smoldering twigs that pulse like tiny heartbeats. It's not just light, it's a signal, telling other traders, this is mine, your turn. You're chuckling, imagining leaving a candle by your groceries to claim them at the store. Your cashier would lose it. But here, it's genius. The embers are bright enough to see, dim enough to keep things discreet. You're wondering if they ever accidentally set the grass on fire, like a bad camping trip. Probably not. These folks were too sharp for that. You crouch behind a bush, its leaves tickling your arms as the trader steps back and taps a stick against a hollow log. Thunk, a low, eerie sound that carries across the clearing. A Wangara trader emerges, his gold pouches glinting faintly as he inspects the salt. He nods, leaves his gold beside the embers, and melts back into the shadows. It's seamless, like a choreographed dance, and you're thinking of your last late-night takeout order, where the delivery guy got lost and called you twice. These traders, they'd have delivered in silence and tipped themselves. The river's lapping grows softer, blending with the crickets' hum, and you're leaning against a smooth boulder, its coolness grounding you. You're joking to yourself about starting a glowing thought or barter. Swipe left for salt, right for gold. The embers flicker, casting a warm glow, and you're feeling that familiar tug toward sleep. You're curious about who else was part of this system. Maybe people who never got the spotlight. Were women involved, working behind the scenes? The moon's high now, the clearing still, and you're ready to follow the trail deeper, to uncover the hidden players in this silent dance. The night's rhythm is pulling you in, slow and steady, like a lullaby. You're still in the moonlit clearing by the Niger, the river's gentle ripples mixing with the hum of night creatures as you shift on your boulder. Its cool surface soothing your tired legs. The glowing embers from that nighttime trade are fading, their soft pulse barely visible now, and you're wrapped in the quiet of the Mali Empire, 14th century. The silent barter you just saw, gold for salt under the stars, has you thinking about who else kept this system spinning. You're picturing the traders and middlemen, sure, but what about the women? Were they out here, too, shaping this silent dance? You're yawning, craving a pillow, but the thought pulls you forward. Like a good book you can't put down, you follow a faint path away from the river, the sand soft under your sandals, toward a village glowing with the flicker of oil lamps. The air smells of roasted yams and something floral, maybe jasmine, and you hear the soft clink of beads from a courtyard ahead. You're creeping closer, spotting women gathered around a low table, their hands busy sorting kola nuts and weaving cloth. These aren't just any women, they're part of the Wangara network, the hidden threads of Mali's trade. You're struck by their calm focus, like they're running the show without anyone noticing. You're half expecting them to break into a TED Talk on multitasking, but they're too busy keeping the empire's economy humming. Here's a famous moment. The Mali Empire's wealth wasn't just built by men. Women in the 1300s played key roles in trade, especially in markets like Timbuktu, handling goods that fueled silent barter. You've heard of Mansa Musa's gold, but women often managed the smaller trades: cloth, beads, food that kept caravans moving. They weren't always at the trading posts, but their work set the stage. Historians still debate how much influence they had. Some say they were silent partners. Others argue they controlled local markets. Either way, you're watching them now, and it's clear they're the backbone of this village's hustle. Now, the weird bit. They used braided palm fronds as trade markers. You're eyeing a pile of intricately woven fronds by the table, each one tied with a unique knot. It's not just craft, it's a signal, like a barcode, marking their goods for silent barter. You're chuckling, imagining leaving a braided bookmark to claim your coffee order. But here, it's practical. These fronds told traders who supplied what no words needed. You're wondering if they ever mixed up the patterns, like grabbing the wrong scarf from a coat rack. Now these women were too sharp for that. You settle near the courtyard, leaning against a mud wall, its texture rough but warm from the day's heat. A woman places a frond beside a stack of dyed cloth, then steps back, signaling with a soft clap, sharp but quiet, like a snap in a library. Another trader, maybe from the river, arrives, inspects the cloth, and leaves a small clay pot of gold dust. No chatter, just a glance, and the deal's done. You're thinking of your last group project, where everyone argued over who did what. These women would have sorted it out in silence and been home by dinner. The lamps cast a golden glow, their light dancing on the women's beads, and you're joking to yourself about starting a palm frond crafting side hustle would eat it up. The village is settling down, the clink of beads fading, and you're feeling that gentle tug toward sleep. You're curious about what happened when the system started to fade, when new routes and louder trades took over. Did silent barter just vanish, or did it leave echoes? The night's deep now, the air cooler, and you're ready to follow the path back toward Timbuktu, to see how this quiet world began to change. The courtyard's hum is a soft lullaby, pulling you deeper into the rhythm. Asterisk, you're easing away from the village. The soft glow of oil lamps and the clink of beads now. A faint memory as you tread back toward Timbuktu's outskirts. The night air's crisp, carrying the scent of dry grass and distant wood smoke, and your sandals scuff gently on the sandy path. You're still wrapped in the quiet rhythm of those women weaving palm fronds, their silent work fueling Molly's trade. But now, your mind's drifting to the cracks in this system. How did silent barter, so smooth and sacred, start to fade? You're picturing it like a favorite playlist getting old, replaced by something louder. You're yawning, craving a soft pillow, but the thought pulls you along. Like a mystery you need to solve, you reach a dusty trade route, marked by deep camel tracks and scattered straw, where the Mali Empire's silent barter once thrived. It's the 15th century now, and things feel different, busier, noisier. You hear the faint jangle of a caravan in the distance, voices carrying through the cool air, and you're squinting at a group of traders haggling openly by a pile of salt slabs. It's jarring, like someone blasting pop music in a meditation class. The silence you've grown to love is slipping away, and you're settling on a low dune, its sand cool under your palms. To figure out why, here's a famous moment. By the late 1400s, the Mali Empire was losing its grip, as new powers, like the Songhai, rose in West Africa. You've heard of Timbuktu's golden age, but this was its twilight, when trade routes shifted and silent barter took a hit. New markets, like those in Gao, favored faster, louder deals. Think open auctions over quiet exchanges. Outsiders, including Portuguese traders, sniffing out gold, brought their own noisy habits, and Mali's old ways struggled to keep up. Historians still argue over what killed silent barter. Some blame economic shifts, others point to cultural clashes. Either way, you're watching the change unfold, and it's like seeing a small town get swallowed by a highway. Now, the weird bit, some traders tried to keep silent barter alive with secret hand signals. You're spotting a Malian trader by the salt pile, his fingers flickering in a subtle pattern to taps a wave, like a low-key hive. It's not just nerves, it's a code, a last-ditch effort to keep the silence while adapting to the noise. You're chuckling, imagining using hand signals to order takeout. Your server would think you're having a meltdown. But here, it's a quiet rebellion against the new, chatty trade vibe. You're wondering if they ever flubbed the signals, like sending the wrong emoji in a text. Probably rare. These folks were stubborn about tradition. You watch as the trader sets down gold dust, using his hand signal instead of a drum or pebble. But the other merchant, a loud newcomer, yells his offer, oblivious. The Malian trader winces, tries the signal again, then gives up and mutters something back. It's a small defeat, and you're feeling it, like watching your favorite coffee shop turn into a chain. A middleman steps in, drumming that familiar thump-thump pause, but it's drowned out by the caravan's chatter. You're thinking of your last chaotic group chat, where nobody listened, and you're amazed the old system lasted this long. These traders deserved a medal for patience. The dune's sand shifts under you, soft and cool, and you're joking to yourself about inventing a silent barter emoji, maybe a shushing finger for keep it quiet. The stars are sharp overhead, the caravan's noise fading as it moves on, and you're feeling that gentle pull toward sleep. You're curious about what traces of silent barter lingered, how it shaped Molly's markets even after the silence broke. Did it leave a legacy, or just stories? The night's deep, the air still, and you're ready to drift back toward Timbuktu, to see how this quiet world echoed into the future. The dune's embrace is soft, and the rhythm of the fading trade pulls you deeper, slow and steady. You're easing off the dune, the sand sliding softly under your sandals as you head back toward Timbuktu, the night air now a cool caress against your skin. The chatter of that noisy caravan still echoes in your ears, a stark contrast to the silent barter you've grown to love. The stars burn bright above, and the faint scent of dust and distant spices lingers, grounding you in the Mali Empire's fading glory, now inching into the 16th century. You're wondering how silent barter's quiet magic left its mark, even as louder trades took over. You're picturing it like a favorite song you still hum, even when it's off the charts. Your eyelids are heavy, but the thought of Mali's modern echoes keeps you moving. Like a story you're not ready to end, you reach Timbuktu's market edge, where dawn's first light paints the mud brick stalls in soft pinks. The air's alive, with the clink of coins and the murmur of early traders, a far cry from the silence you saw under moonlight. You settle on a wooden bench, its surface worn smooth by countless others, and watch a vendor arrange salt slabs not for silent barter, but for open sale, with prices called out like a modern flea market. Yet, there's something familiar in the rhythm, a quiet nod to the past. You're starting to see how silent barter's legacy lingers in Mali's markets, like a recipe passed down but tweaked for new tastes. Here's a famous moment. Timbuktu remained a trade hub into the 1500s, even as the Songhai Empire eclipsed Mali. You've heard of its libraries, but its markets kept West Africa's economy pulsing, blending old traditions with new. Silent barter was mostly gone by now, replaced by louder, faster deals, but its influence stuck around. Traders still valued trust over contracts, and some goods like salt carried the same reverence. Historians still argue over how much silent barter shaped modern Malian trade. Some say it's in the haggling etiquette, others think it's just nostalgia. Either way, you're in today's Mali, and the market's vibe feels like a distant cousin of those quiet trades. Now, the weird bit. Some vendors use silent gestures to seal deals. You're watching a salt seller, her hands moving in a subtle dance, 2 fingers crossed, a quick tap on her wrist like she's casting a spell. It's not silent barter, but it's a nod to it, a way to agree without shouting over the crowd. You're chuckling, imagining using finger signals to haggle. At a garage sale, your neighbors would think you're in a secret club. But here, it's practical, cutting through the market's noise with a wink to tradition. You're wondering if they ever misread a gesture, like mistaking a wave for a bid. Probably rare. These folks know their cues. You lean back on the bench, catching the scent of fresh flatbread from a nearby stall, and watch the market wake up. A trader leaves a small clay figurine by his salt pile, just like those ancient markers you saw, and you smile. It's not a trade signal anymore, just decor, but it's a thread to the past. Another vendor claps softly to call a buyer, echoing the women's signals from that village courtyard. It's not the same, but it's close enough to make you feel the old rhythm. You're thinking of your last market trip, dodging pushy vendors, and your anomalies traders make it look effortless. Even now, the sun's climbing, warming your face, and you're joking to yourself about starting a silent gesture. Trend may be a pinky swear for deals done. The market's hum is soothing, like white noise, and you're feeling that gentle tug toward sleep. You're curious about the stories that grew around silent barter, the myths that sprouted. When the silence faded, did people romanticize it, or make it weirder than it was? The bench is comfy, the dawn soft, and you're ready to drift toward those tales. to see how Molly's quiet trade became legend. The market's rhythm wraps around you, slow and steady, pulling you deeper into its hum. Asterisk, asterisk. You're still slouched on that worn bench in Timbuktu's market. The dawn's warmth seeping into your bones as the hum of vendors and clinking coins fills the air. The scent of fresh flatbread mixes with the dusty temps of the Sahel, and you're fighting the urge to nap, your head bobbing like it's on a spring. The echoes of silent barter, you spotted those subtle gestures. That clay figurine have you thinking about the stories that grew around it. You're picturing old griots, spinning tales, turning quiet trades into epic legends, like your grandma. Exaggerating a family recipe, you're curious about the myths that sprouted, how people made sense of this silent dance when it was just a memory. You shift brushing crumbs off your tunic, and wander toward a quieter corner of the market, where an elderly griot sits under an acacia tree, his fingers plucking akora strings. The music's soft, like a lullaby, and you're drawn in, settling on the ground, its cool sand soothing your tired feet. This is Mali in the 16th century, when silent barter was fading but its stories were blooming. The griot's voice, low and rhythmic, weaves tales of traders who moved like ghosts, swapping gold under starlight. You're half expecting him to mention aliens or magic, because that's how myths work, right? They take the truth and dress it up fancy. Here's a famous moment. Timbuktu's griots were the keepers of Mali's history, turning trade routes into oral epics by the 1500s. You've heard of Mansa Musa's wealth, but these storytellers made silent barter sound like a sacred ritual, not just economics. They wove tales of trust and mystery, keeping the empire's spirit alive as Songhai took over. Historians still argue over how much was fact versus flair. Some say griots exaggerated to hype Mali's glory. Others think they captured its soul. Either way, you're listening now, and it's like hearing a bedtime story that's half truth, half dream now. The weird bit. One myth claimed silent barter was guided by spirits. You're catching the griot's words. How traders left offerings to thinny shells or beads by their goods to appease the trade spirits. You're squinting at a small pile of cowrie shells near the griot, glinting in the morning light, and you're chuckling. Imagine leaving a lucky penny by your online cart to ensure delivery. But back then, some believed spirits watched the trades, keeping cheats at bay. You're wondering if anyone actually saw these spirits, like spotting Bigfoot at a swap meet? Probably not, but it made for a good story. You lean back, the acacia shade cooling your face, as the griot describes a trader who broke the silence and vanished poof, cursed by the spirits. It's dramatic, and you're smirking, thinking of your last loud Zoom call that could have used a curse or two. The griot's kora hums, and you notice traders nearby, pausing to listen, their hands stilling over salt and cloth. They don't believe in spirits anymore, but they respect the tale, nodding like it's a family heirloom. You're thinking of your own myths, urban legends about haunted apps, or cursed emails, and how they're not so different, just less poetic. The market's waking fully now, the sun climbing, and you're joking to yourself about starting a trade spirit podcast. Imagine the downloads. The griot's voice is fading, his chora's notes blending with the market's buzz, and you're feeling that familiar heaviness, like you're sinking into a warm bed. You're curious about how these stories shaped Mali's memory, how silent barter became more than trade, it became a vibe. What did it all mean as you look back? The sand's soft under you, the morning gentle, and you're ready to drift toward a final reflection, to tie this quiet journey together. The song lingers, pulling you deeper into its soothing rhythm. You're easing away from the griot's acacia-shaded corner, the chorus fading notes blending with Timbuktu's morning hum as you wander toward the city's edge. The air's warm now, carrying the scent of baked earth and distant spices, and your sandals sink into the soft sand, each step slower, heavier. The myths of silent barter, those tales of spirits and vanishing traders, still swirl in your mind. Like a dream you're not quite ready to leave. You're picturing yourself back home, trying to explain this quiet trade to friends over coffee, and them thinking you're making it up, like you've been binge-watching too many history docs. You're settling on a low hill overlooking the Niger River, its waters glinting softly in the dawn. Ready to wrap up this journey through Mali's silent world, you lean against a smooth rock. its surface cool despite the rising sun. And let your gaze drift over the landscape dunes, stretching endlessly, dotted with camel tracks and the faint outlines of trade routes. This is the Mali Empire in the 16th century, its golden age fading, but its lessons lingering. Silent barter wasn't just about swapping gold for salt. It was about trust, patience, a way of moving through the world without shouting your worth. You're feeling it now, the calm of it, like sinking into a warm bath after a long day. You're wondering what it all meant, what you're taking away from this quiet dance that spanned centuries. Here's a famous moment. The Mali Empire's legacy shaped West Africa long after its peak, with Timbuktu's markets still buzzing. Into the 1500s, you've heard of Mansa Musa's wealth, but silent barter's real gift was showing how people could connect without words, building an economy on faith. It faded as new empires and louder trades took over, but its spirit trust restraint echoed in markets, in griot's tales, in the way Malians still nod to tradition. Historians still argue over its impact. Some call it a quirky footnote, others a blueprint for cooperation. Either way, you're here, feeling its weight. And it's heavier than that ostrich egg you saw, but softer, to dot now. The weird bit, some traders believed their goods carried memories. You're picturing that clay figurine from the market, the braided palm fronds, even those glowing embers by the river, each one, they thought, held a piece of the trade's story. You're chuckling, imagining your phone storing every Amazon order like a diary. But here, it wasn't silly. It was reverence, a way to honor the silence that bound them. You're wondering if they whispered thanks to their goods, like you mumble apologies to your car when it breaks down. Probably they were human, after all. You stretch out on the hill, the sand cradling you like a worn mattress, and watch a caravan fade into the horizon, its bells tinkling faintly. The Niger's ripples catch the light, each one a tiny echo of the traders who passed through Wengar Saharan, women weaving fronds, griots, spinning myths as you're thinking of your own world, how you rush through deals, emails, life, and how maybe a little silence wouldn't hurt. You're joking to yourself about trying silent barter at the grocery store, leaving apples by the register and walking away. You'd probably get banned, but it's a nice thought. The sun's higher now, warming your face, and the world feels softer, slower. You're sinking deeper into the hill, the sand's gentle grit lulling you, the river's hum a steady whisper. You're carrying the quiet of Mali's traders, their trust, their patience, like a keepsake you didn't know you needed. The dunes blur, the caravan's bells fade, and you're drifting, the world slipping away like sand through your fingers. Let it go, let the silence wrap you up, warm and heavy, like a blanket you've had forever. The Niger's still there, flowing softly, carrying its secrets into the dawn. You're almost gone now, eyes heavy, breath slow. The quiet holding you close, your eyelids flutter, the stars blurring into a soft haze. The sand's warmth lingers, the river's whisper fading, and you're floating, weightless, in Mali's gentle embrace. No need to rush, no need to speak, just rest, just be. The trader's silence is yours now, a gift to carry into sleep. Let the dunes hold you, let the night take you soft and slow, until the world is just a hum, just a dream. End of script. Sweet dreams.